Welcome to the Hockey Writers Maple Leafs Lounge, a weekly show from our Toronto Maple Leafs writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, prospects, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the blue and white. Come on in and pull up a chair. Welcome to the Maple Leafs Lounge.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Maple Leafs Lounge. I am your host, Alex Hobson, stepping in for Peter Barricchini, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. And as always, I'm joined by my co-Maple Leafs writer at the Hockey Writers and co-host on the show today, Shane Seney. Shane, what's going on out your way, man? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been quite a day of snowfall here up where I live, so I've been in and out all day long. But happy to be here. Unfortunately, Peter can't be with us. You know, we'll take it over for him, and we'll make sure to put in an effort for three here.
Yeah, that's the beauty. We always, anytime one of us misses, the other two always have to up our efforts a little bit just to bring the energy that three people would.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was at the Leafs game yesterday, or I guess by the time this is up, it'll be 2 days ago, but Sunday against the Capitals. You know what, man, I'm going to tell you, the 5 o'clock start on a Sunday night is a thing of beauty. Because I'm living in like the Southern Niagara region right now. So I was able to get home and in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I got to wake up early for work. I've been to get week games on weeknights before that start at 7, and I'm not getting home any earlier than midnight. So it was a thing of beauty. I want more 5 o'clock games.
Is that maybe because of the raspy voice you got now? Is that
that's part of it? Yeah, that's part of it. All right, so let's get into the show and the talking points for today. Obviously, not too much to talk about after last week's show. The Leafs played a couple of games. Unfortunate loss to the Ottawa Senators on Friday night, but then again, they did beat the Islanders on Monday. They beat the New York Rangers on Wednesday, my apologies. And then obviously that convincing win over the Capitals on Sunday. So 3-1-0 over the week, not too bad. And I guess the first thing that we can talk about is the sudden injury to Matt Murray that happened ahead of the game against the Ottawa Senators. And I think there was some speculation initially that William Nylander kind of hit him with a stinger on a warm-up shot in the warm-ups. Mm-hmm. And people were thinking that may have had something to do with it. But after reports came out, it was sort of proven wrong. And it is an ankle injury that he's dealing with. So as of right now, the tandem is Ilya Samsonov and Joseph Woll, who's been off to a sizzling start with the Marlies this year. So that's encouraging to see. Shane, I guess I'll just get your initial takeaways on the Murray injury and how you think the Leafs are going to be able to deal without him going forward.
Yeah, it's certainly something to monitor. He's been banged up, it seems like, his entire career, just can never really put a full season together. But it's worrisome for sure, because Joseph Woll's only played, I think, 4 NHL games. He's been great. I think he's 3-1, and he's had a great start to this year in the AHL. But again, you need some proven depth. So I wouldn't be surprised if you'll hear some rumors about, maybe a Thomas Greiss or Korpisalo or somebody on an expiring deal that maybe they'll bring in for a third stringer. But
sort of like they did with David Riddick in 2021.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Exactly. So to me, you don't want to overwork Samsonov, and he's now it'll be his 8th in a row, I think, on Wednesday. So it's getting to a point where, you know what, if this is the way it's going to be down the stretch and into the playoffs, there's going to need to be something done about it. And unfortunately, Murray's just not reliable. And there's a reason why, another team traded him and is still paying him.
Yeah, you know what? And I think this is something that when the Leafs acquired Murray originally, this is something we sort of expected to, well, I won't say expected to happen, but it was something that we were prepared to have happen because
we weren't surprised when it did happen.
Right? Yeah. Like people said all off season, he can be the best goalie in the league. And at the same time, he can be the worst, and he has trouble staying healthy, and that's going to be his fallback always. And I do think that he has played well enough. I mean, aside from his recent couple of games, he has played well enough over the course of the season in the games that he has gotten into where that, I'm not really sitting here saying it was a mistake trading for Murray. Like they went out and, it was a horrible move to make, because I still, given the options that were available at the time, where he is right now seems like a bit of a non-issue. And I think a lot of that just has to do with how good Samsonov has been. Yep. So it makes it a little easier to overlook. But yeah, it's unfortunate because you want to see the guy succeed. You want to see him stay as healthy as possible throughout the year. So it sucks to see him dealing with an injury again. But all I'll say is it's a good thing that Samsonov's playing as well as he is, because I think that's a big proponent of why the Leafs aren't really being hurt as much due to Murray's durability issues. Now, it's funny because we didn't put this into the talking points for today's show, but it's kind of big news, and it's cut from the same cloth as Murray's injury. The Leafs are going to be without Auston Matthews for 3 weeks. Yeah. And that obviously something happened during the game against the Rangers. What was it? It was
he sprained his knee.
Strained his knee. That's what it was. It was a knee injury.
Right.
So, the Leafs are without Matthews right now, and will be for 3 weeks, but it does come at a convenient time because the All-Star break is upon us. The Leafs are going to go, I think, 10 days without a game or something like that. They play on Wednesday against the Bruins, and then they're off until the following Friday against the Blue Jackets. So that's 9 days. So really Matthews is only going to miss maybe 5, 6, 7 games, something like that. Mm-hmm. So let me get your thoughts. Do you think that the Leafs are really going to hurt without Matthews, or are you confident in their abilities to push forward without their number one center? And also, do you think that it might have something to do with maybe a little bit of load management ahead of the playoffs?
I was kind of surprised when I heard it was the knee injury, and because a lot of the quote unquote speculation was about his left wrist. So obviously something happened where they're like, you know what, let's get ahead of this. You don't want it to flare up come playoff time. So I'm in the realm that I think it was pretty minor. And they were like, you know what, let's just play this very, very cautiously. Mm-hmm. Their record without him is very good. So no concern there. It'll give Tavares a little bit bigger of a role. And I'm actually curious to see how much more Pontus Holmberg will play, because I think he deserves some more minutes now. So it's not necessarily worrisome, but because he hasn't really, I don't think he's had knee injuries in the past. It's not like this is something that pops up all the time. So to me, get him fully healthy. Let's get him, going down the break and down the stretch, I should say. And we'll see what happens come playoff time. But for now, it's just like you hope and pray it doesn't become something more serious.
Yeah. And, I like when you say that it's good that they got ahead of it, if that is the case, because you don't want something like this flaring up in April and having the Leafs, limp into the playoffs without their number one center. And, the month of February has potential to be a bit of a frustrating month for fans. It shouldn't be a frustrating month, but if you look at the teams that they're playing over the month of February, they obviously have Boston on Wednesday. After that, they play Chicago twice, they play Columbus twice, they play Montreal, they play Buffalo, and then they play Minnesota and Seattle. So wow. Minnesota and Seattle are obviously two teams that are doing all right this year, but the rest of those teams are textbook Leaf losses right there based on what we've seen in the past couple of years. So I guess it is a good time for the Leafs to be without Matthews because you're not having to worry about facing on those strong teams in your division like the Lightning or the Bruins, and it gives them time to sort of adapt to play without him and to make sure that he rehabs his injury properly and gets back and is at 100% when he comes back. And if you're going to have that happen at all, it might as well be when you're against mostly weak teams. So I think that's probably probably the best circumstances that you could ask for in this situation.
Best case scenario for something that could be way, way worse. So yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Yep. Now, a big part about Matthews not being available to play right now is that he is not going to be going to the All-Star game anymore. Alexander Barkov took his place at the All-Star game, and when that happened, there was a little bit of an uproar from Leafs fans on Twitter about how William Nylander was snubbed from the All-Star game. Nylander has arguably been the Leafs' best forward all year. I wouldn't say for forward, actually. He has been their best player all year. If I recall correctly, he's leading the team in points right now. Let me just fact check that real quick. But he is leading the team in points with 59 points in 51 games, 28 goals. So, I mean, you can definitely make a case for William Nylander not being snubbed from the All-Star game, I should say. But let me get some thoughts from you there. Do you think that it's a big snub? Do you think it's a big deal, or do you think it's something that just doesn't really matter?
Not a huge deal. I think obviously Leafs Nation makes it out a lot more than what I think Nylander's sitting and stewing about. But he was named the second star of the week this week, and he just brushed it off too. He's just, I'm here to win games.
Mhm.
And you'll get that. That's the prototypical answer. You're never going to hear a guy really. I'd love to hear someone be like, that's, I feel great. It's awesome. I'm happy to be recognized. But end of the day, they're always just like, oh yeah, I'm here to win hockey games. So to me, I get why Barkov was named. It's in Florida. So he certainly probably deserves to be there. But it's unfortunate for Nylander because he has been the Leafs' best forward. And he came into training camp like that. He was buzzing and he hasn't stopped. So awesome to see him, have the year he's having, and hopefully he can just continue it on into the playoffs. But end of the day, it's not a huge deal. And of course, how Leafs Nation is. We've been doing this long enough. So
Yeah.
no, good for them to have their players back and all that. But at the end of the day, it's not a big deal and really shouldn't be overblown.
Yeah. My opinion is not one that you should take if you're looking for an objective analysis on whether or not he was snubbed, because I truthfully could not care less about the All-Star game. I think that as soon as they've allowed the fans to vote in John Scott a couple of years ago, and as legendary as that was, because I was fully on board with that. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I actually watched the All-Star game that night because of that. But yeah. I think as soon as that happened, it sort of cemented the status of a game that's just really does not matter that much. It's fan driven. And really, say that again. Sorry.
I don't watch it.
No, neither do I. I haven't watched in a while. In fact, I actually think that the peak of the All-Star game was back when they had the players doing the live fantasy draft before the skills competition. I think that was the peak of All-Star game excitement for me. But yeah, I personally don't. I really could not care less that Nylander got snubbed again. Like you say, he's the type of guy who he is probably faced more scrutiny than just about anybody else on the Leafs from the Toronto media. And he's the one that cares the least about it. Like, he does not care that he got snubbed from the All-Star game. Like you said, he just wants to win games. And there's a part of me inside that's secretly happy that Matthews is taking some time to rest and get healthy, and he's not going to be at the All-Star game either. If I'm a Leafs fan and I'm watching the game to watch my favorite players, then yeah, that kind of sucks. But at the same time, it's a bit of a gimmick of a game. And I really just don't see the need to make a big deal out of Nylander getting snubbed because, we know they're having great seasons. Going to the All-Star game does not really matter that much.
Put it this way, there's a good reason why Sidney Crosby's missed like 4 of these.
Yeah, exactly. Right? There's a reason that Alex Ovechkin took a 1-day suspension or a 1-game suspension because he didn't want to go.
Right. It's more of a nuisance, travel, the whole nine, right? Those guys, they travel so much. Their schedule is so grueling. It's like, give everybody a week off, even the All-Stars.
Yeah, honestly. All right, we have reached the midway point of our show, which means that it's time for a word from our sponsor, Hockeypedia. Have you ever been looking for details on a player that just competed in the World Junior Championship? Do you want to know who owns the New York Islanders? Who was in the 2015 Stanley Cup playoffs? What are the NHL awards and what are their history? If you're interested in either of these or any other hockey questions, make sure you check out and bookmark the Hockey Writers Hockeypedia. It's an ever-growing collection of hockey resources that is invaluable to any fan looking for information. Look for a link in the show description and dive in today. You would always use Wikipedia to search up hockey details you're looking for, so why not take a look at a site that pretty much masks Wikipedia, but focuses all of its attention on hockey. You're going to get all the information you need. Go check out Hockeypedia and make sure to give it a bookmark. So moving on to our final couple of topics from the show, we've just passed the 50-game mark. The Leafs' victory over the Capitals on Sunday was game number 51. Where they sit right now, they currently have a record of 31, 12, and 8. So second in the Atlantic Division. Obviously, there's still a hill to climb to catch Boston, but overall, it's been a good year. They're top 5 in the league right now. So 50 games in, I think it's an appropriate time to ask a question. Who has been your biggest surprise from the first half, whether it be positive or negative, Shane?
I'll go positive, and I'll go Timothy Liljegren. Plus 22, leading the Leafs. It's kind of gone from a bit of a project to now, to me, could be a top 2 defenseman. So he's well on his way to, he's getting more minutes. He's getting more responsibility. I would love to see him get some power play time because he has got a pretty good shot. And right now, Morgan Riley even I know he scored last night or the other night there, but he doesn't have a booming slap shot that's actually, a weapon and something that scares other teams and that makes some kind of game plan around, where Liljegren can come in and he can shoot the puck. So why not give him a look? But to me, he's been great, and he's been to the point where they can really set him in as a core piece here moving forward. They got him signed for next year at a good number, and to me, he's somebody that you want to get signed long term. So for me, first half surprise to me.
I respect that pick. I dropped the hot take at the start of the season saying that Liljegren was going to have a breakout year and put up 40 plus points. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think that it could happen, but he did miss some time at the start of the year, which will make things a little harder. Having said that, I do think that I was right in the part of my prediction in the sense that he has been emerging as a top 4 defenseman, relied on more defensively than he may have been in past years. And overall, just exceeding expectations. He looks exceeding expectations for this year, at least. It looks like they've got their top 4 right-handed guy there. Yeah. Now I'm going to stick to, I can't get rid of these voice cracks, eh? I am going to stick to the mantra of being positive here. And I am going to say that my biggest surprise from the first half of the season is Ilya Samsonov. And I say that because over the summer, if you're a Leafs fan and you had social media, all you saw from the media was Murray and Samsonov. This tandem could make or break the season. This tandem could be best. It could be the worst. Samsonov, he's a gamble to take because he hasn't had many good. He hasn't really had a true breakout season yet. There's a lot of concern around what he's going to be able to do with the Leafs. And 50 games later, you're looking at a guy who's got a record of 17-5-4, a goals against average of 231, and a save percentage of 917. I don't think you can really ask for much more from a goalie, especially, given how much extra work he's kind of taken on because of Murray's injuries both at the start of the year and then again, obviously in these past couple days. And when you look at his game by game track record, he's really only had one bad stretch of games, which was sort of mid to late December. Ever since then, he's rebounded. Even you look at his past 5 games, his save percentage, percentages go 903, 939, 931, 824, 958. And the 824 obviously was that game against the Senators. And I'm not blaming Sammy for that game. I didn't catch much of it, if I'm being honest, but he was sort of told that he was starting right before the game started and the team didn't show up in front of him. It just wasn't a good game at all. But overall, I think he's been consistent. I think he'd be solid. And, you mentioned signing Liljegren to an extension. To be completely honest, I'm looking at Ilya Samsonov and find the Leafs. And if he keeps up this season and, God forbid, if he takes them on a good playoff run and he's their starter between the pipes and he emerges in that number 1 role and he can keep it up for the rest of the season, you may have found your future franchise goalie there. So that's a question that's obviously going to be asked after the season. But I think through 51 games, Samsonov has been a very pleasant surprise for me.
Look at us, being so positive. This is... I know.
Well, Well, the thing is, we're going to get to a point in the season where it's not possible to be positive. We've been there before. There's a good chance we'll be there again. So you gotta try and get some of that positivity out while you can.
Yeah. Talk to me at March 3rd at 3:05 p.m.
March 3rd at 3:05. And then again, I don't know, like May 20th or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like we do a segment like this pretty much every week, but it's always a lot of fun because there's always new developments coming out and there's always, new reports and new questions to be asking. Shane, a couple reports coming out about Jake McCabe over the past couple of weeks. You've read some stuff about Matthew Nyes and whether or not the Leafs will move him. Some more rumblings on Timo Meier. As of the week of January 30th, 2023, give me a trade target you want the Leafs to pursue.
Oh, wow.
If you really want to challenge yourself, make it one that you haven't picked already this year.
I know, right? Or wrote about, or I don't know. To me, it's like, I feel like they need a defenseman. Like they really need a top 4 guy that they can plug in and kind of shift everybody down a bit. So if I'm Dubas, which I wish I was, I would just go after Chikrin and maybe Lawson Krause from Arizona.
It's a good package.
And just get the package, pay whatever you got to pay, make the money work. You know what? If you want to get crazy and throw in the goalie, like, get crazy. But honestly, though, to me, like a top 4 defenseman like Jacob Chikrin would be ideal. Dubas hasn't scouted the Coyotes a ton. He was just at the Canucks, I think, Blackhawks game. And the Jake McCabe talk it's definitely picked up in the last little while. You know, Saravalli's talking about it, Friedman's talking about it. But at this point, it doesn't feel like they're going to pay the price. And really, we'll see what that is come March 3rd. But I would get Chikrin if I was in charge.
Yeah, you know what? I can't lie. I'd be open to it, the idea of a defenseman coming to Toronto in a trade as well. But my issue with that is just that I can't see how they're going to adjust their defensive core to fit another defenseman in. And, you know, if they can do it, absolutely. I'm excited to see it. But, you know, if the Leafs didn't trade Justin Hall last year or last offseason and they didn't do it the year before, I can't see them trading him at this deadline. And seeing that Rasmus Sandin's one of his main reasons for the little contract debate at the start of the season was due to his playing time. I can't see them moving him into a 7th defenseman role either. So that's, you know what? I don't disagree. I think that the Leafs could use another defenseman. I think that there's been times when that's really kind of shown itself as a need, but I think that there's more obstacles to hop over if I'm the Leafs doing that. For my trade target, I'm going to sort of go off the board a little bit. Someone that I haven't really read any reports about, but Pavel Buchnevich from the St. Louis Blues. Now, here's a guy who he had 76 points in 73 games last season. He has 38 and 38 this year. And he's making, I want to say, $5.8 million for 2 years after this season. So if the Leafs are looking for someone in the top 6 to really round out that top 6 and provide some offense and maybe some longevity, some term, because I know Dubas likes going after his guys with a couple of years on their deals, to go for someone with term, Buchnevich fits that category. And, you know, if you have him here for another couple of years and his deal expires, maybe by that point, Matthew Nyes is ready to move into his spot. Granted, unless the Blues were to ask for Nyes in that trade, but I do think that the Leafs overall still should be prioritizing a forward. And I only say that because I can't see a situation, and I can't justify a situation where the Leafs go with one of Alex Kerfoot or Pierre Engvall or even Yarncroke. Like, as great as Yarncroke's been in the top 6, I think ideally down the stretch, the Leafs want to have him in the bottom 3 and providing maybe in more of a secondary scoring role. I don't want to have a revolving door in that top 6. I'd like Tavares and Marner or Tavares and Nylander, depending on who you start. I would like that line to have a guy that they can depend on every night, just like Matthews and Marner and Nylander have Bunting. So to me, I think that Buchnevich would be a great topic, or a great target to go after. And it'll obviously depend on if they can make the cap work and make the roster work. But I think he'd be a really appealing target.
I don't disagree there, for sure. They need help, and they got to have their top 2 line set. They got to have their top 4 defensemen set. And right now they don't. So, lots of work to still get done for a top 5 team.
All right. Well, we have reached the end of the episode. THW has evolved so much over the years, and there's so much to check out on the website. So be sure to go down the rabbit hole, check out all the services that we have to offer, and continue to make THW your number one resource for anything hockey related. For Shane Seney, I'm Alex Hobson. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week on the Maple Leafs Lounge.